Saturday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Saturday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Saturday. Saturday, bring it on.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Welcome. You are entering the Stone Zone. Yesterday, we interviewed Sam Antar, the criminal fraud investigator who first uncovered the pattern of mortgage fraud pertaining to New York Attorney General Letitia James. And then late yesterday, President Donald Trump himself jumped into the fray. Let's listen to the president.
I can say unrelated to that, she's from New York. She's a horrible, horrible human being. And I think she's a total crook. There's no question about it. But that's just my opinion. Pam's going to have to do what she wants. She's a very bad person. She's a very, very bad person who campaigned solely on, I'm going to get Donald Trump over and over again. She's a sick person. But that's has nothing to do with what Pam does. Pam is going to do what's right. She always does. I've known her a long time.
To put that in context, essentially, the head of the Federal Home Finance Administration, after reviewing the many mortgages and financial disclosures of New York Attorney General Letitia James, made a criminal referral to Trump Attorney General Pam Bondi. What Pam Bondi does with that remains to be seen. But the president weighed in on the scandal during an Oval Office appearance only minutes after the Attorney General told reporters that she would not discuss anything pending or not within her office when she was asked about the April 14th referral against Attorney General James from the head of the Federal Home Finance Agency, Bill Pulte. The president made his comments, as you saw, jumping into the fray. Now, a spokesperson for Attorney General James, who has denied all wrongdoing, said the Attorney General will not respond to personal attacks. The criminal referral against James cites multiple instances in which James falsified bank documents and property records to acquire government-backed assistance and loans more favorable loan terms. These include falsifying resident status for a Norfolk, Virginia-based home in order to secure a lower mortgage rate and misrepresenting property descriptions to meet stringent requirements for government-backed loans and government assistance. The president says she's a very bad person. I would remind you that it was Attorney General James who said no person is above the law, and she specifically charged Trump with inflating the value of his assets in order to secure commercial loans. It appears, based on the documentation provided by Antar, that James has done the exact same thing, receiving mortgages far in excess of the appraised value of her properties, among other infractions. Meanwhile, taxpayers could actually be on the hook for the legal bills that the New York Attorney General racks up during this Justice Department probe into her alleged fraudulent real estate dealings. According to the New York Post, the New York operations budget bill has been amended to include specific language that would allow certain state officials to tap into a $10 million fund to cover any reasonable attorney's fees and expenses incurred as part of a Trump administration-led probe tied to their state-based employment. This seems unreasonable to me. She's being sued over action she took as an individual rather than in her role as Attorney General, and you could substitute the words federal government probe rather than Trump administration-led probe. Sources have confirmed that the money is earmarked for use for Attorney General James' legal defense. James, who once again famously declared that no one is above the law when she was wrongfully prosecuting former President Trump, is now trying to grab the public piggy bank to defend her personal crimes. This bill would cover those who obtained representations by private counsel in response to requests, summons, commands, subpoenas, warrants, investigative interview or document requests, audit, or legally compulsive processes initiated after January 1st. 2025 by the United States government in which the employee was or is involved as a result of the employee's New York State employment or duties. New York Republican State Party Chairman Ed Cox called out the move to slip a legal bailout for James, calling it an outrageous abuse of power and a slap in the face to every New York taxpayer. This is what corruption looks like in plain sight. Political insiders rigging the system to protect their own while hardworking families get shortchanged. That's what the Chairman Cox said. Tish James used her office to wage a partisan lawfare against her political opponents, and now New Yorkers are being asked to foot the bill for the consequences. In the meantime, a story broke at the Art Voice, an upstate newspaper, by investigative journalist Frank Parlato, reporting on a 2022 lawsuit in which a woman, Sophia Quintanara, 33, claimed that she was sexually harassed by James' chief of staff, a man named Ibrahim Khan. Only months ago, the claims against James in that case were dismissed, but speaking to Quintara's lawyer, he assured us that that would be appealed. More on that story will be coming up here in the Stone Zone. Meanwhile, in the story that the entire country is watching, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the FBI is diligently going through all of the Epstein files. This answers a question that has occurred to me for some time. When the FBI raided Jeffrey Epstein's palatial Manhattan home, his exclusive island in the Virgin Islands, his ranch in New Mexico, and his apartment in Paris, they confiscated DVDs and hard drives from his safes that presumably include video of Epstein's clients and his victims. Listen to Attorney General Pam Bondi announcing yesterday what she is doing.
James Comer said yesterday that all the Epstein files are missing. They still haven't heard from you.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
So I was perhaps the second author in the country to document the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein in my 2015 book, The Clintons' War on Women. I know many have been frustrated by the lack of disclosure by the current Justice Department, but I think it is clear from those comments that Pam Bondi has every intention of exposing as much of the material as possible. Now, these videos, one must presume, are both graphic and in some cases perhaps even pornographic, and I think everyone agrees the victims, of course, need to be protected. In the meantime, Virginia Giuffre, who was one of the Epstein victims who did not reach a settlement with Epstein while he was still alive. This would have been after the period in which Epstein was charged with a sex crime in Florida and the time that he was charged federally in New York, was reported only weeks ago to have committed suicide. I interviewed Virginia Giuffre. I have 12 hours of audio tape. I interviewed her for my book, The Clintons' War on Women. I also read every word of her sworn testimony. I, for one, do not believe she committed suicide, and I would note that she was mysteriously hit by a bus only weeks before it was claimed that she took her own life, and she actually released a statement saying that she was not suicidal, and if she was reported as a suicide, that people should doubt that. Epstein is, of course, the disgraced pedophile financier who died in a New York prison in 2019 as he awaited trial for sex trafficking charges. His connections span politics and major industries, and men like Bill Clinton and Bill Gates have already been disclosed as having taken his plane, known as the Lolita Express, to his private island. The investigative journalist Nick Bryant was really the first journalist in the country to break this story. It's interesting that when Bryant wrote his reports on Epstein, including Epstein's Little Black Book and the FAA manifest of Epstein's plane, as a freelance journalist, literally no mainstream journalism outlet would publish his stories. Ultimately, it was Gawker that broke these stories. I have all that material in my book, but with attribution to Bryant. But the full extent of Epstein's client list is still not known, including whether he had any further accomplices other than his jailed associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Attorney General Bondi has pledged full transparency of the Epstein files. According to Alex Jones, one of the major stories journalist James O'Keefe is about to break concerns Bondi's handling of the Epstein files. This story has been teased by both Jones and O'Keefe online. One of the two big stories he's breaking is about someone in the Trump administration covering up for Epstein, said Jones. And then he put out a video yesterday showing a video of Pam Bondi. I, for one, doubt that. I told the crew over the weekend that it's Pam Bondi. I don't agree with that based on Bondi's statement today. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, and FBI Director Kash Patel also announced today the rescue of 115 children from the hands of child sex predators. Again, let's listen to Pam Bondi.
Today, we are proud to announce the results of the FBI's Operation Restore Justice initiative. This historic, unprecedented nationwide operation led to the arrest of 205 child sex predators. Unbelievable. In just 5 days. This was an incredible operation done in conjunction with the FBI and our prosecutors. Children and their families now have a chance to heal. These are online predators. Think about this. 115 victims, children. In 5 days, we were able to help.
So I know Alex Jones. I also know James O'Keefe, and I know they don't speak lightly, but today's statement by Pam Bondi seems to cut against those claims. I guess we just have to wait and see what O'Keefe, formerly with Project Veritas, releases, but it has certainly gotten an enormous amount of hype. Meanwhile, on the international front, a senior Hamas official has said that the armed terrorist group is not interested in further talks regarding a Gaza ceasefire or a hostage release deal, while Israel continues what he calls its starvation war. Israel has cut off all humanitarian aid from entering Gaza 9 weeks ago and later resumed its military offensive, saying it was putting pressure on Hamas to release hostages. But Bassem Naim of Hamas said there was, quote, no point in any negotiations as long as the blockade remained in place. His comments came after Israel's security cabinet approved an expanded offensive, which could see the forced displacement of Gaza's 2.1 million people and an occupation of all the Palestinian territory indefinitely. If you're just tuning in, you're listening into the Stone Zone. We're going to be talking about the international scene, so whatever you do, please don't touch that dial.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Last week was our first playoff game, and my plaque psoriasis was so itchy under all my gear. Sometimes just thinking about scratching could take me out of the moment. And then my doctor told me I could get clearer skin with a pill called Otezla.
Otezla apremilast is a prescription medicine used to treat adult patients with plaque psoriasis for whom phototherapy or systemic therapy is appropriate. Otezla can help you get clearer skin after just 4 months.
Okay, ready for the next game. Talking to my doctor about a pill was a total game changer.
Don't use Otezla if you're allergic to it. Get medical help right away if you have trouble breathing or swallowing, swelling of the face, lips, tongue, throat, or arms. Severe diarrhea, nausea or vomiting, depression, suicidal thoughts, or weight loss can happen. Tell your doctor if any of these occur and if you have a history of depression or suicidal thoughts. Live in the moment. Ask your doctor about Otezla. Call 1-8444-OTEZLA or visit Otezla.com for prescribing info about cost, and more.
That moment when you realize your skincare is actually working. That's Rodan & Fields, the #1 female dermatologist-founded skincare brand in the U.S. Designed by 2 dermatologists who don't just know women's skin, they know how to formulate for it. Rodan & Fields, love what you see. Tap the banner or visit rodanandfields.com/Spotify to get your exclusive welcome offer.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. If you were tuned in yesterday, you know that we predicted that North Carolina's Republican Senator Thom Tillis would ultimately come down opposing the appointment of the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Ed Martin, and indeed, we were right about that. Tillis specifically objects to Martin's dismissal of a number of the January 6th cases and personnel changes he made in the D.C. Department. But it's a little further than that. Sources told the Stone Zone that Tillis actually has told third parties that Ashley Babbitt, the unarmed Air Force veteran who was shot and killed without warning, unarmed and menacing no one, actually deserved it. Tillis is making himself a target for political retribution within the Republican Party, and diverse voices in MAGA world are calling for a 2026 challenge to Tillis. Martin is assured, if he is not confirmed to be the U.S. Attorney for D.C., to be appointed to yet another position within the Trump Justice Department. Interestingly enough, Tillis said he was not opposed to Martin. He was just opposed to Martin being the U.S. Attorney for D.C. because of his position regarding January 6th. The problem here, of course, is that if this vacancy continues beyond the 20th of the month, then left-wing Democrat Judge Jeb Boasberg gets to name the prosecutor. This, of course, would be a nightmare. Boasberg is the judge who has exceeded his constitutional authority by ruling that Donald Trump does not have, through his administration, the authority to deport illegals and gang members who are in the country and pose a danger. Many allies of the president's have urged the president to suspend habeas corpus, that portion of the Constitution that was suspended by Franklin Roosevelt, suspended by Abraham Lincoln, suspended by Ulysses S. Grant in time of national emergency. Argument, of course, is that we are in a national emergency. 20 million illegals let into the country, including a disproportionate number of military-age men, an enormous amount of weaponry, and, of course, the violent gangbangers and gang members. Well, to me, that would constitute a national emergency. You can imagine the left will go insane, but as long as federal judges exceed their authority and try to thwart the will of the American people in the last election, I think the president has a constitutional duty to protect the safety of the American people. When we return, we'll be joined by Colonel John Mills. He is a national security professional with service in the Cold War, the peace dividend, the war on terror, the war in chaos. He's the former director of cybersecurity, policy, strategy, and international affairs for the U.S. Department of Defense. He's now a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy. So please don't touch that dial. You're in the Stone Zone, where we tell you the stone cold truth and we let the chips fall where they may. We'll be right back.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
Welcome back. We're back in the Stone Zone, and now I'm joined by one of my favorite guests, Colonel John Mills. Colonel Mills is a national security professional with service in 5 eras in American history, the Cold War, the peace dividend, the war on terror, and the world in chaos, and now, of course, the great power showdown. And he has been active in the fight to save our republic. He's a former director of cybersecurity, policy, strategy, and international affairs at the Department of Defense. And today, Colonel Mills is a senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy, and he writes a lively page on Substack. Colonel Mills, welcome back into the Stone Zone.
No, thank you, Roger. Always an honor to be on the show. Thank you so much.
So here is some breaking news I want to get your reaction to. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has announced that she is introducing the American Privacy Restoration Act to fully repeal the Patriot Act and strip rogue intelligence officers of their extraordinary mass surveillance powers. Since the passage of the USA Patriot Act in the aftermath of 9/11, she says, the intelligence agency officials have used their mass surveillance tools to settle personal scores, interfere in elections, and spy on untold numbers of innocent Americans. Colonel Mills, what is your reaction to this news?
Well, we've gone through this so many times about mass surveillance, and oh my gosh, I think it's the Section 702, which was introduced in 2008. I worked on that original package. At the time, it seemed to make sense. It seemed logical. It was targeting foreign terrorists. And then guess what? It was used against us. It was used against you, Roger. It was used against me. It was used against many people. The unmasking episode, Susan Rice, who unmasked people. The fraud of Russiagate, essentially, had mass surveillance elements to it. So this is what they do every time it comes up for renewal. They people say, we don't want it, and then essentially the intelligence agencies, essentially the big three, depending on certain things, it would be NSA, the FBI's NCI, JTF, and DHS. They come together and they give a dog and pony show to Congress, and they reveal the magic of what can be had, and the collection capabilities have just grown exponentially. I'm no longer behind the curtain, don't know what their current status is, but I can assure you the capabilities from when we started in 2007 grew exponentially, and it's intoxicating when the members of Congress get these briefs. Most of them are almost drunk with what they receive, and they go, oh boy, we got to have, not only do I like it, I want more of it. And this is the problem. So it has to be tailored. It has to be tailored to each situation. We need a FISA warrant for each event. And they say, things happen too fast. We can't do this. We need broad surveillance. And again, they give these briefings that blow the socks off of these members of Congress, and they cave and fold and say, It's intoxicating when they are exposed to the powers of what can be done. But all magic comes with a price, and just because we can do it doesn't mean we should.
Yeah, look, I admit that I was not always a supporter of Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. In fact, I was a critic, but I'm also a big enough man to admit that I was entirely wrong. She has turned out to be a MAGA firebrand. I think she's done an excellent job at trying to figure out what the government is holding back regarding the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert Kennedy, and Dr. Martin Luther King. We talked extensively on this show about the fact that the disclosures from the National Archives have been limited to the JFK assassination records collection, but that there's substantial information, for example, still at the Department of State, the Department of Defense, the IRS, the Army Intelligence, and other places. Again, she today is right on the money. The Patriot Act has been abused. It's not incidental that Judge Jeb Boasberg, the same judge who said Donald Trump does not have the constitutional authority to deport violent illegals who are in this country, is the same judge who oversaw the FISA court's warrants that were used to spy on Donald Trump's presidential campaign. How incredibly coincidental. So I think this is a necessary move. I know there are neocons in the Republican Party who will not be comfortable with this. Yesterday I saw Congressman Stube from Florida also commenting on the fact that nobody from our intelligence agencies, not the Secret Service, not the FBI, has briefed him and other members of the House Intelligence Committee regarding what they know about the 2 assassination attempts on President Donald Trump, where, to my mind, we still have far more questions than we have answers. We can go through the questions, but they're mind-boggling. How is it that the state police, the local police, Homeland Security, and the Secret Service are aware that there's a man with a gun who's been seen with a rangefinder within the sealed perimeter of Trump's event for 92 minutes, but nobody informs President Trump's direct security detail, and therefore he was not evacuated as would have been the protocol? How is it that the state, local, and federal authorities are on 3 separate radio frequencies and cannot speak to each other? Why would they immediately hose down the roof where the man they claimed was the shooter shot from, destroying any DNA evidence? This list goes on and on. What is your take on this, Colonel Mills?
Well, going back to in Butler, Pennsylvania, President Trump was willfully getting economy minus level of protection. There's different tiers of support. They clearly were intentionally going on the cheat to give him maximum exposure. People forget. We still have not totally, to the best of my knowledge, captured all these Iranian assassins that are inside the country. And the Biden team was intentionally giving economy minus protection in the tiers of protection to President Trump. It was shameful, and we need accountability for this. But that's what was going on. And remember, it was Dr. Jill who just, for whatever reason, had to go to Pittsburgh that day, which drew even more resources away. So definitely we were not getting President Trump was not getting the best attention. This was intentional. They couldn't have cared less if he'd been shot. So we need accountability on everything that was going on. And it's the cooperation. We don't have all these findings, these mysterious backgrounds. I mean, we're finding out the FBI cover-up. Oh my gosh, what was the cover-up just exposed on? But it's willful on what is going on here with the FBI and their dismissals of motives that are important.
I find the attempted assassination in West Palm Beach even more troubling. Hard for me to believe that the suspect Ryan Routh, who they tell us is indigent, they tell us he's behind in his rent payments, behind in his alimony, lives in Hawaii. How does he afford to fly to the United States? How does he afford to fly to all these European capitals? How does he afford to fly to Ukraine, where we've seen video footage of him? How does he obtain a gun when he's in Florida? How does he hide for some 18 hours outside Trump's West Palm Beach golf club undetected? It just seems highly unlikely that the intelligence agencies have no knowledge of Mr. Routh and his background.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are important details. They say no political motive. Are you kidding me? They just, and back to the Butler shooting, same thing. They just, this superficial level of introspection and investigation into these matters. Yeah, right. Ruth in Palm Beach. I mean, come on. That guy was on the golf course. I mean, it wasn't until the last moment he was noticed. How did this happen? This was intentional setups they were trying to get President Trump out of the race one way or another. So this is just unacceptable. But this is the absolute politicalization, weaponization of these agencies, and we've just from all of these personalities through the years back to Russiagate. We just had extremely toxic personalities that were involved with this, and this allows these sick people to penetrate. But again, with Ruth and Palm Beach, I mean, come on, look at this guy's travel history and his background for Ryan here. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
It seems to me that the intelligence agencies and law enforcement tell us that they cannot get into the encrypted information in the cell phone of Thomas Matthew Crooks. That's the man that they say shot at President Trump and killed Corey Comparatori, the brave firefighter who died shielding his wife and daughter that day. It really aggravates me to see people on social media claim that nobody was shot that day, that the whole thing was a psyop. It particularly aggravates me when people said that I somehow arranged it, which shows that they're truly mentally ill. But it's interesting that Apple has refused to turn over the contents of Crook's phone, saying it would be a violation of his privacy. Yet Apple was more than happy to turn over the contents of my phone to Robert Mueller and his thugs without even getting a subpoena. Talk about the so-called double standard. And then, as I said earlier, hosing down the roof of the building that Crooks allegedly shot from before testing for DNA. Reminds me when they hosed out the back of the limousine in which John F. Kennedy was shot within an hour of that murder. I mean, it's, the fact that this is a cover-up is, I think, extraordinarily easy to see. What I wonder is whether President Trump himself or his FBI director have demanded answers from the Secret Service, because the public story really defies credibility. That crooks acted alone seems unlikely to me. We've seen video footage of him and still photos of him talking on the telephone. Who is he talking to? Obviously, somebody. We also know that just average citizens see him on the roof with a gun. They're shouting about it, yet those in law enforcement take no action. And then it's pretty clear that the government's counter sharpshooter has crooks, or whoever was shooting from the roof, in their sights. But instead of shooting and killing him, which is what the protocol would require in the case of a presidential candidate who's a protectee of the Secret Service, they wait until he gets off 8 shots before he's killed. I find that deeply troubling.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the San Bernardino shooting from years ago where Apple, the public story is Apple would not help. I tend to believe, I have a different view of it. But there's also now there is a lawsuit from the San Bernardino case where the FBI was able to get support to unlock the phone of the San Bernardino shooter from years ago. Okay, this was like 2016. There was an Australian firm named Azimuth that it looks like the FBI contacted to unlock the phone. Again, I still think Apple may have unlocked the phone themselves, and that they wanted to play dumb and pretend they didn't do it. But come on, look, this is we unlocked the San Bernardino shooter. Why have we not done the same routine to unlock Crook's phone in Butler, Pennsylvania? I mean, this is just we got a long list of gigs we got to go through at all these 3-letter agencies, but I mean, this should be at the top of the stack to figure out, but what was going on in Butler, what was going on at the Mar-a-Lago golf course, what was going on here, and who knew what, and when did they know it?
All right, if you're just tuning in, folks, you're listening to The Stone Zone. We're talking to Colonel John Mills, and Colonel Mills has written extensively about the power struggle going on inside communist China. When we come back, I'm going to ask him about that power struggle and what it means for the United States. So whatever you do, please don't touch that dial. We'll be right back in The Stone Zone after these messages.
The Stone Zone on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
And we're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking to Colonel John Mills. He has a lively set of postings on Substack. He's there as Colonel Rhett, meaning retired, Colonel Rhett John Mills. Urge you to check it out. It's where I go for geopolitical and foreign policy, as well as national security information. Colonel Mills, welcome back into the Stone Zone. What's going on in China today? What is this power struggle that you have written about?
Horrendous power struggle going on inside of China. And this is, the tariffs have punched the communist Chinese in the face. Now, fake news would have it, oh boy, it's so horrible in America because of these tariffs. Look, yeah, I mean, yes, maybe we're not getting inexpensive slave labor product from China. Most Americans can put up with that and see the villainy of what's going on from China. But China needs us far more than we need them, and the tariffs have brought factories to an absolute standstill. There's just a bazillion containers that have been left behind on the docks that didn't meet the April 9th cutoff. Sailings have been canceled, mass layoffs, unrest in the streets, and Xi is replacing his generals and admirals. I can't even keep, it's faster than the Israelis knock out the IRGC commanders. I can't even keep track. And he's, so massive unrest inside of China. We have the cards when it comes to tariffs with China, and that is an absolute punch to the face. And that's because President Trump is a businessman, and he has great people working for him, Scott Bessent and others that know the power of our tariffs on shaping the behavior of communist China.
Pete Hegseth, in the meantime, has been talking about reorganizing our Defense Department. Let's listen to Pete Hegseth.
More pronouns, no more climate change obsession, no more emergency vaccine mandates, no more dudes in dresses. We're done with that.
Colonel Mills, we got about a little more than a minute. Your assessment of the Secretary of Defense.
Oh, this Secretary Hegseth is doing an absolutely fantastic job, and all his staff. This is real. The absolute destructive, corrosive, cancerous nature of DEI and CRT cannot be understated in its horrible effect in reducing combat effectiveness of the Department of Defense. We are under Biden. We spent more than ever before, and the military shrank and was less ready than ever. But we spent more than ever, but the military was less ready than ever. This is absolutely crazy. And a former friend of mine, a general, was just shooting his mouth off on LinkedIn today, and it shows the heinous nature of so many of these generals and admirals that they think nothing about what the Biden team was up to, and they applaud DEI and CRT, but how dare Donald J. Trump and MAGA transform the military back into its constitutional parameters. I mean, we got a lot to do, but we're absolutely on the right path with Hegseth, and we got to just jump on the gas pedal.
All right, we have to leave it there. I want to thank our guest, Colonel John Mills. Also thank our many listeners out there in the Stone Zone. Thank you for joining us. And until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?